Today, I'm directing the United States Trade Representative to examine China's policies, practices, and actions with regard to the forced transfers of American technology and the theft of American intellectual property. And we will protect forgotten Americans who have been left behind by a global trade system that has failed to look, and I mean look, out for their interests.
President Trump has ordered his top trade official to investigate possible unfair Chinese trade practices, including charges that China steals U.S. trade secrets and intellectual property, product ideas. The move, which could lead to steeper tariffs on Chinese goods, comes at a time when Trump has asked China to do more to crack down on North Korea's nuclear missile program. Joining him now, he is the author of the, quote, coming collapse of China. He is Gordon Chang. So good to see you, Gordon. Is President Trump doing this to, let me back up. What do you make of the president's pushback on China right now?
Well, it's important, and China has been misbehaving across a whole range of activities. And it's not just North Korea, it's not just trade, it's not just South China Sea. We're seeing China do things which are deeply troubling. And so the president has no choice but to push back. Now, the problem is that on some things, you know, he is sort of not going as far as he should because he's worried about not having China's cooperation on North Korea, and that's a problem. So, for instance, you know, with this trade stuff on intellectual property, he sort of backed off a little bit, hoping to get Beijing's cooperation for a UN Security Council resolution. And that means, you know, workers in the United States have become bargaining chips in connection with North Korea.
Wait, so you're saying that the president and the administration should push back even harder on China because they'll get more in the way of the North Korea situation. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. So, for instance, yesterday, that clip you played, what President Trump did was he asked the U.S. Trade Representative to start an investigation to see whether there should be an investigation on China's IP.
That could take a year, right?
That could take more than a year. You know, he's referring to a Section 301 Trade Act remedy, which is under the Trade Act of 1974. But, you know, you go back to what happened at the beginning of this month. President Trump was going to announce the 301 on Friday, February 4th. He didn't do it because on the previous day, UN and State Department officials went to the White House and said, please hold off because we need China's cooperation on a Security Council resolution, which was ultimately adopted 2 days later. Yesterday, President Trump didn't go forward on the Section 301. All he did was he asked the trade representative to see if we should have a 301. And so what we're doing is we're being very tepid right now and tentative, even though each year China steals somewhere between $250 to $635 billion of U.S. intellectual property.
That's the entire trade deficit, practically, yeah. Right? You know, the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, let me back up. The president has Democrat support for what he's doing in cracking down on China. Chuck Schumer agrees with taking a tougher stand on China. He recently said, quote, listen to this, I was closer in trade views to Donald Trump than I was to either George Bush or Barack Obama, on China anyway. I think we were much too easy on them, but if we got tough on them now, maybe they would relent. But we have to be real tough. Do you agree? Oh, absolutely. You know, we have tried over the course of decades to obtain China's cooperation on all sorts of things by sort of giving them concessions first and hoping that they would reciprocate. Well, that approach has failed, whether we look at South China Sea trade, North Korea. What we need to do is to put the Chinese in a box, basically to make the pressure so high they have no choice but to cooperate. And indeed, I don't know if that will work, but I do know that the opposite approach hasn't worked. So we need to try something new. I actually believe that China will cooperate when they realize that President Trump has put so much pressure on them. So I think that's the way to go. I think Schumer is absolutely right.